Hi Concordia, my name is Viviana Aguero, and I want to introduce you my portfolio. I will go through each piece and explain its number and title, month of completion, dimensions in inches, medium, a description, and perhaps why I included it in the portfolio today. Piece number 1. The name of this piece is Viviana Online. Its dimensions are 9 by 10 inches. The multimedia I used was Adobe Illustrator program. I made it in September 2010, and I used several layers to separate the facial elements. I made it to explore a digital way of making art form, other than traditional art such as painting. Piece number 2. Metamorphosis. Completed in June 2010, its dimensions are 17 by 24 inches. The medium I used are colored pencils on white paper. The piece was inspired by M.C. Escher, and to keep in mind the theme of a garden, I started out with a butterfly and turned it into a hummingbird. Piece number. I named this piece Ballerina because that is the subject matter of the painting. It is a 2D piece as it is entirely in watercolor. I painted it in June 2010, and the dimensions are 20.5 inches by 16 inches. The medium is entirely watercolor, as I told you, and it shows a close-up of a ballerina's tattoo with a piano in the background. Piece number 4. Sitting Nude Woman. It's 24 by 11 inches. To create the look, I used red, purple, and orange charcoal. I drew it in December 2011. Again, this was drawn from observation with personal color choice, so I decided to use the reddish colors to give that look. And I paid specific attention to the human anatomy. Piece number 5. The title of this piece is Nude Back. I completed it in January 2011. Its dimensions are 28.5 by 23 inches, and I used tempera paint to make it. This is a piece that also captures colors in the flesh tones, and the variety accentuates the room's lightings and the shadows and the midtones and highlights created by the model's structural muscle and bone anatomy. I included it in this portfolio to demonstrate sharp color contrast emulated by the colors that I used. Piece number 6. This ornamental ceramics piece is named Orchid Fairy. It was finished in October 2011, and the dimensions are 6.5 inches in height and 11 inches in length. It was made out of ceramic clay and glazes. The theme behind it is procreation and regeneration. For example, in ancient China, orchids were associated with spring festivals and stimulated birth. Fairies symbolize stillborn babies and nature by being emanations of Mother Earth. So to keep in the theme of regeneration, I used fairies and orchids to give off that feeling. That's why I believe that the symbols appropriately describe my theme. Piece number 7. This digital artwork is named Surreal Dinner for You. I made it in February 2012. And the dimensions are 15 by 10 inches. The medium is photography, and Adobe Photoshop program manipulation was used as well. It describes the theme of a dreamlike dinner with surreal elements. I was inspired by Jerry Yulesman's photography and the Alice in Wonderland dinner. Piece number 8. This photograph is named Her Intensified Face. I photographed it in January 2012. It is black and white photography, and I used it with a wide-angle lens. I also manipulated the colors in Adobe Photoshop to make it a bit darker, to accentuate the face. The dimensions are 16 by 10 inches. I was inspired by Bill Brandt's photograph East Sussex Coast 1957 because that photograph really accentuates a facial area, which is actually the overpowering element of the photograph. I captured the same idea with the theme of the face. No matter where else you look in the photograph, you always seem to be looking back at the model's eyes. Piece number 9. The next piece is a blue fruit container that I made in November 2011. It is 4.5 inches tall and 8 inches long. The medium is ceramic clay, glazes, and glass. The details are more intricate on the design. I used scratch to make a wallpaper-like repeat pattern, but the structure is simple. On the top, I added the glaze crackle, which makes an intricate pattern over any underlying glaze. Piece number 10. This piece, named Serenity, was completed in November 2010. Its dimensions are 48 by 48 inches, and the medium is paint, spray paint, origami, sand, and varnish. The painting's themes are flight and serenity. That led me to use a swan, which represents both of those things. I was inspired by Judy Pfaff and Yoko Taraki for this painting. Piece number 11. Egyptian Princess is the name of this piece. It was made in January 2010. The dimensions of this piece are 11 by 7 inches. I used a plastic plate for printmaking to make the piece and used black ink on white paper for the final one. The theme of this piece is multiculturalism, hinting towards Egypt. The idea of having a multicultural approach is interesting to me. The piece shows an Egyptian princess and many museum artifacts, including items from tombs. Piece number 12. This is a skeletal figure with a vague life drawing. It was finished in February 2012. Its dimensions are 24 by 18 inches. I used charcoal for the outline and HB pencils for the skeletal structure. In order to accurately portray the model, I researched skeletal anatomy. This piece was the outcome of my research on anatomy, and my work was influenced by Gino Barksay, the Hungarian painter. Piece number 13. This piece is named Constructing Household Objects, and I completed it in January 2012. Its dimensions are 21 by 26 inches, and the medium is HB pencils, ranging from 2B to 6B. As a still life study of household objects, the constructional area is left unrendered by providing an understanding of basic shapes and their use in proportion and scale by breaking down the forms into sections. Everything else is left rendered. Piece number 14. This piece is a watercolor of a nude female. I painted it in November 2010. It is 16 by 18 inches. I painted it with orange, red, yellow, and green watercolor paints. And my medium, obviously I used it on white paper. This piece was done from direct observation of a model. Piece number 15. This piece is called Multi-Aged Self. I made it in July 2010. The piece is 16.5 by 19.5 inches. The medium is HB pencils ranging from 2B to 6B, and colored pencils for the background, and accented lips. I based it on self-exploration, and imagining what I would look like in the future. It depicts me in 3 different life stages: as a child, as an adolescent, and as a senior. The fading background represents fading memories of life and experience, and as you get older, the more difficult it is to remember things from your early childhood. It also represents that as you get older, your life is fading away, until it simply becomes blank and you disappear. This sketchbook is primarily used for ceramics, but I've also included a bit of photography, art history, and graphic design into it. This is a sketch of the fruit container. This is reference I used for Orchid Fairy. Again, for my ceramics piece. This is something that I used from the multi-age cell. This sketchbook is primarily used for photography and graphic design. This was my faces theme for my photograph inspired by Bill Brandt, exploring the theme of faces. So, my inspiration, surrealistic photographs by Jerry Uelsman.